Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another War of the Visions video, and today I'm going to do a much requested video. I'm going to talk about my top 10 Trust Masters in War of the Visions. Now, before I get into this, this is a list of the Trust Masters that I personally use the most, that I find the most impactful on the game, / easy to incorporate into teams, just ones you're going to get a ton of bang for your buck for. And I got a ton of honorable mentions before we start. So let's jump in here. Actually, somebody had the genius idea, Skyfray, of favoriting them. So I can do it all from this screen. It's going to be beautiful. Now, before I start talking about which TMRs are my actual favorite and showing you how I build them with trust stones, I want to do the honorable mentions. First honorable mention is any weapon TMR with good stats. Look at Lady's Cuff Claws right here. This is a weapon you can put in the Trust Master slot. You can deck it out with trust stones, and base, it's already really good. It's 15 spirit piercing rate. Very nice. That means you don't have to worry about a spirit piercing rate trust stone on that. You already have 15, has decent magic, which you can boost. Super good. So weapon TMRs with good stats are very specific and kind of hard to use all the time, but very worth building if you're looking into that. Other honorable mentions, Ayaka's boots and TMRs like Ayaka's boots that have really good abilities on them, like Purify right here, that the AI just won't use. This is a manual PvP manual PvP battle honorable mention, because this shield is a 3-turn shield, not 3 hits, 3 turns, really powerful. But you can see I don't play a lot of manual PvP, so I haven't leveled it, but it is all over manual PvP. The AI will only use it though to like cleanse debuffs, things like that. Couple more honorable mentions. 1, Saint Circlet. When they rerun Cecil, the next time they rerun Cecil and you don't have him, this TMR will allow your team to auto-farm your bravery up to 97. So it's super worth having. Now, I have heard that eventually the Guild Barracks is going to be able to take units bravery up to 97, and that will make this less desirable unless you're just instantly wanting to like max out a unit, but it still does have a nice buff that gives attack and magic to your team, which can be useful in certain like scoring situations. And then Star Burial Pendant for the exact same reason. Starry Veil is a way to auto raise your unit's faith. Yes, Fina can also do this, but you have to put Fina in the group, put like bow tie on the unit's faith you want to raise. For me, it's way easier. Just put Star Burial Pendant on my mage or whatever unit I want to raise the faith on, turn all their other moves off, and just let them use this TMR buff. So shout out to those two for just ones that I use all the time. And since that's what this list is mostly about, that's what I wanted to say. All right. Oh, last honorable mention, I forgot. Adventure's Bandana. This is Locke's TMR. If you're playing Evasion, this TMR has an agility and luck buff for your group. Hey, if you're dodging, you need dodge, the stat evade, right? And you need agility and luck. This gives any unit access to a buff of those two stats. Really powerful for an evade team that cannot otherwise buff those. So shout out to Locke's TMR. Now, we can get to the actual what are my favorite 10 TMRs, and honestly there might be like 11 or 12. Cutting the list down was a little bit hard. Okay, obviously, let's start with Bells. I think this is the most obvious one. Everybody knows that having access to Revitalize and getting that AP restore is just too good. But I want to show you how I build my Bells. I build Bells as a physical DPS TMR. Most mages in the game and most magic scaling units outside of like Jaden, Varouche, and those units don't need the AP regeneration. So when I'm building my Bells, I run HP on the left side, agility on the right side, and then I make sure I sneak in attack plus 20% on there, and then other good things that my attack type units will like. I also use Bells in every one of my PvE chaining groups. So because I'm lazy and don't want to move it on and off, I keep a damage limit up additional ability on my trust stone as well. So that's how I build out my Bells. You can see it's a 10 agility TMR with this setup, which is insane. Look at the HP it has accuracy on it. This is a top 10 TMR in the game, has been one of the best TMRs in the game since day one. Okay, next up, I want to show you Black Rose's headdress. This is Black Rose Helidus TMR. This one I build for mages. Now, this has a buff. It gives you 3 turns of 30% damage reduction and raises your agility. So really important for going fast and taking less damage. Who does not want to go fast and take less damage? Now, it's only wearable by like, it's wearable by like mage classes, right? So I put it on a lot of my mages. Therefore, I build it with HP set on the left, agility set on the right, and I make sure I get things in there that my mages want. Ability activation time down. Every unit in the game wants more luck. Reaction block rate is clutch on everybody. HP, critical hit, and critical damage. I work critical hit and critical damage into almost all of my TMRs because no unit in the game does not want to crit more and to crit for more damage. So that's just universally really good. And then I get magic up on this one. I do not have attack up as well on this one because I made this a set for mages. So this is like one of my magic sets. It also has magic attack resistance penetration on there somewhere right there. So it's really good in combination with things like the accuracy glasses for like a Sottily, something like that. And then look at the stats on this thing. An 8 agility TMR with 1,000 HP. It's an accessory with 1,000 HP. That's insane. Has 163 magic. Really great TMR that I use all the time. Okay, next up, I'm going to go to Sweetheart's Secret Pouch, but this is a combo one. I'm going to talk about Sweetheart's Secret Pouch and Swiftwind Mantle at the same time. Both of these I use on tanks, and I just got turned on to Sweetheart's Secret Pouch. That sounded really weird as it came out of my mouth, and it was definitely meant to sound that way. What the heck, developers? Anyway, let's continue. These are TMRs that have a good ability for a tank. Now, they have 2 very different abilities, but this one has Hearts of Flutter, which gives you unit attack resist and move jump +1. Move jump +1 is very good for tanks to allow them to like get a little extension away from your team so your team doesn't get AoE down, and unit attack resist is obviously very good. I will talk about the build for it here in a second, but let's go look at the other one I'm mentioning here, Swiftwind Mantle. Swiftwind Mantle gives your tank access to a defense and spirit buff. Now, a lot of tanks already have access to a defense or spirit buff. In that case, I would use the other one. So like if I had a tank that already self-buffed their defense or spirit, like Warrior of Light, for example, in that case it'd be better to use Sweetheart's Secret Pouch so I could give him the move jump +1 and the unit attack resist. I just pivot these back and forth. Again, with these, I'm running an HP set and an agility set. Let me show you real quick what my tank trust stones look like. I go for things like critical evasion, max HP. I run attack up 20% and magic up 20% because some tanks scale with magic, some tanks scale with attack, so that's kind of how I work those in there. Again, I always do crit hit and crit damage, and then I went for some elemental resist, right? Like lightning resist, dark attack resist, fire attack resist. I might not have leveled all this lightning resist yet for some reason, but then I got like strike attack resist, magic attack resist. Just throw some resist on there. I also have slash attack piercing rate up because a lot of tanks do slashing damage. So I thought that had a little bit of bang on there for my buck. So I worked that one in. That's what my tank set looks like. This TMR right here, you can see 775 HP, 8 agility, so it's really fast. Good stats, good bonuses. Those are my tank TMRs. I'm kind of combining those into one. Now, next one. Let me tell you about a really up-and-coming TMR. This one does not have a set of my max trust stones on it because I've really just been testing it out in arena. So I'm not going to do the trust stone like breakdown, but once again, I'm running HP and agility on it. Let me talk to you about Psaro's TMR. A lot of people just got their hands on this one. I think it's going to really creep into the meta in a big way for this buff. Padfoot. It gives you aggro, down, and haste. So on a unit like Psaro, or on a unit that's going to be like going into the enemy team, this is very useful for encouraging the enemy to overlook them and just move on to your units that are standing further away. It messes with the enemy's AI in really useful ways that they definitely weren't planning for, and makes one of your like high DPS units, for example, go faster because of haste. Who doesn't want haste, and what DPS unit does not want to be targeted? I think this TMR is going to be all over, especially in auto PvP, for just what it does to the game. Now, it does have the drawback of being an armor, so I don't love that about it, but that's fine. It's still really good, and that buff is super awesome. Okay, Zombie Mask. This is a top 2 TMR in the game. I think it might even be as good or better than Bells, and it's just that useful. Like, this thing gives re-raise to a unit. Now, I haven't even maxed this thing yet. Here, watch this. This is something I've been meaning to do with my 3,800 armor pots. Let me go ahead and max this so I come back to life with a little more HP when I come back to life. But I tend to run this on DPS units or my support units. It gives you access to re-raise. Any unit in the game can have re-raise with Zombie TMR. Something that people don't know is a global upgrade to Zombie Ryu was his TMR is wearable by everybody. It was not that way in JP. Not a lot of people know this. This item is super good on global and niche on JP, I think. So here's what it looks like. I have a hybrid set of my trust stones on here. So this is what my trust stones look like on a TMR that I'm going to put on both a physical damage and a magic damage unit. So I work in attack 20% and I work in magic 20%. I have spirit piercing rate on here because I do tend to wear this on a lot of mages. I also have my critical hit and critical damage up, and then just some good like luck up, HP up, element resist up, stuff like that on here as well. So that is Zombie Mask. It is a top 2 or 1 TMR in the game. Next, I'm going to talk about some armor TMRs, which I tend to not I ding armor TMRs a little bit in my mind for taking up the armor slot on my unit, but some of these are so good that I use them anyway. Queen Mashari's TMR, the Sworn Sister's Dress. This is a large AoE defense and missile resist buff for your group. So good. There's so many maps in the game now where there's just missile teams, and this gives any one of your units, especially one that might not otherwise run to the rest of your group to do buffing, not only a buff to run to your group for, but a defense and missile resist. Super good against missile. Love this TMR a lot. I just use it all the time, so that's why I wanted to mention it. Similarly, Moonbow Battleware, you want a generic really good, really big buff. This is an agility buff for your group. Also, this buff can be cast from range 2 away and still hits for that diamond-shaped AoE. This is all over the game. It's probably a top 5 TMR in my opinion. Going fast is a big deal. You just want to go fast. Now, I'm not using it right now. You can see because I don't have my Trust Stone set on there, but I could swap any of my DPS Trust Stone sets in there for a unit that could wear that item. Radiant Grace. Okay, this is Starlight Elena's TMR. There are so many times when building a light, an anti-light, or anti-dark team just seems relevant. It just seems like something I have to do a lot. So here's a Trustmaster that gives me access to a big AoE group buff that will build both anti-light and anti-dark. As the two most prevalent elements in War of the Visions for years now, I think this TMR is amazing. Obviously, not using it right now, but it's a TMR I get use out of all of the time. Definitely makes my top 10 or so list. Okay, King of the Lion's Cloak. AoE stacking, AoE resist stacking, and single target resist stacking is one of the most surefire ways in War of the Visions right now to reduce the damage you take. There are so many like bruiser teams out there, or even teams running tanks and healers that just rely on AoE resist and unit target resist to stay alive. This gives you access to an AoE resist buff for your group. Boom. I like to run this on tanks a lot of the time, or my unit that's standing in the middle of a 3-man team. I have my other units come in, buff the middle unit. I have the middle unit activate this buff, giving my whole team AoE resist. Then they can advance towards the enemy team together and just take less damage. It's so nice. I love this TMR. I use it all the time. So there's that one. Okay, next up, Glinting Armor. This is an original TMR to the game. It's Rob's TMR, and Keenblade is very, very busted in both manual and auto PvP. Now, in the manual tournaments, sometimes you will see CT manipulation taken off the table. In that case, it's obviously really bad because then you're just getting a slash attack buff. But the idea of being able to like get more turns buffing than the enemy team, or on certain maps, get enough turns to where you move into position to do damage first is just game changing. And so this TMR has been used in high level PvP for the entirety of the game. Since the first person figured out how powerful CT manipulation was, they started building Rob to level 99 and said, I hope you enjoy the bench at level 99, Rob. Thanks for the armor. We're moving on with our lives. Okay, the game just crashed. This gives me a moment to shout out that, man, the PC beta client for Windows looks really crisp, really smooth. Hope you guys are enjoying those frames, but it does crash a little bit. It is a beta client, so every once in a while you get a crash, but doesn't that look so clean? Doesn't that look so clean? Also, unlike potentially an emulator, it does not crash at the loading screen. You always load back in. I've never had it crash on the going into the game screen. So even when you do crash, getting back in, an easy thing to do. We're already back to it with just that little monologue. Okay, next up, Steel Maiden's Necklace. This one I wanted to mention alongside Yuna's TMR. Now, Yuna, a Final Fantasy X unit, not a lot of people would be able to decide to just go get that because you're going to have to wait for a collaboration. This TMR gives a unit in your group access to a heal. That is the thing that will trigger the AI, the heal, and then it gives a barrier to your allies for 3 hits. Yuna's TMR, also a heal, gives your allies Protect and Shell. They are very similar in that the AI will choose to use it when there's a low HP target, they will move into range of them, and they will drop the heal. The better part of it is that you're also getting a damage reduction shield or Protect and Shell if you're using units. So I highly recommend people invest into one of these. It is particularly good in Guild Wars on defense. Whenever I'm hitting a team in Guild Wars that has already been hit once and therefore has like used up a little bit of their HP, and I'm like, oh man, maybe I can come in here and like insta-kill some units on their team, I look to see if they have this TMR or Yuna's TMR equipped, and if they do, if they used it or not. Because if not, not only are they going to be full HP, they're going to also have a shield that I wasn't counting on. Really good TMR. I think it deserves a place in the top 10. And then lastly, Dragoon Helmet. Now, I think Dragoon Helmet will start fading in priority for Pisaro's TMR that I talked about earlier, but it is a haste TMR that gives you move +1 for 3 turns. The move +1 can get you into a little bit of trouble. It definitely can. If you run this on a DPS unit, that move can sometimes have them overextend a little bit and end up getting themselves killed before a tank or the rest of your team can get into range. But having access to haste on a TMR is very powerful for like every game mode in the game. And sometimes, especially on something like a guild raid map, sometimes you have to start really far away from the enemy. So giving yourself haste to get more turns in and move +1 could be powerful. So Kane's TMR, the Dragoon Helmet, sneaks into my top 10, and that is the list. So if you have one that you think I really left off the list, I think what you should do, put that in the comments section, tell everybody else about it. If I see a really good argument, I might pin that one. And there it is, guys. There's my top 10 or so TMR list for War of the Visions. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.